Alright, so in this video I'm going to share with you my thoughts and give you my brief review of the oil Nha Trang 101 from the Attar Store. And if you want to learn more about it, you want to learn more about what I'm talking about, if you don't already know, then I'll put a link below that will link to the website and the product that I am discussing. So for people that are totally new, a lot of this stuff might be a little bit advanced or a little bit over your head, but I'll try to keep it pretty basic and accessible, because as you get into agarwood and oud oils and even things such as Kinam and Kiara, it can just get really complicated and a little bit convoluted and almost contradictory if you don't have a really kind of a little bit OCD, anally retentive kind of mindset. So yeah, just to get that out of the way. So funny enough, for these caliber of oils, I usually only use a really tiny dot. So I'll take a glass stick, get a tiny dot, and put a tiny dot on my hand or my wrist, and that'll be pretty much it. That'll last me for many hours, sometimes the whole day. But funny enough, as I was filming this video, I don't know, I was maybe not paying attention or whatever, but I spilled kind of a pretty large, at least for me, a pretty large drop onto my finger, and I just kind of was able to get a little bit back in the bottle and a little bit on my wrist, and then I just put some on my shirt. So this is a fresh review, and I'll be able to give you my initial potent impressions as I'm trying to fight through the brain freeze that oils of this caliber kind of induce. So the first impression, so the shortest way I can describe this oil is if you took the fullest, most well-rounded, full-fat Nha Trang profile and then wrapped it in a qualitatively Kinamic sort of experience. So that bitter, medicinal, bittersweet, numbing, antiseptic, like something that at least when I sniff it, I feel it go down, I feel it in my chest. Kind of like a relaxing, almost opening effect from that Kinamic sort of profile, or I would say that Kinamic style of the distillation. And in terms of the actual scent breakdowns and mechanics, it has that dark red fruit, sort of dried dates, underlying thread, let's say, or that DNA that, if you're familiar with Vietnamese or high quality Vietnamese oils or high quality Nha Trang oils, that'll be there, alongside a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of floral, a little bit of like kind of a spiced note, but in a way that's very well rounded. There's no harsh edges, there's no excesses, there's no like holes in the aroma. It's very full fat, it's very holistic, let's say. And what I mean by that is sometimes when I smell oils, there'll be gaps in the aroma. I'll take a big whiff and it's like, well, there's a little bit this and there's empty space, and there's this aroma and there's empty space and there's this aroma. Or it's just kind of like there's a bunch of empty space and there's kind of some aromas in there, and you're like smelling it, but you're mostly not smelling anything, and you're just kind of getting a little bit. Whereas this is the opposite. It's just like whatever you're inhaling, it's full on, full olfactory delivery of, like I said, that Nha Trang profile with the Kinamic overtones. So yeah, sort of medicinal bittersweet with some vanilla, with some kind of wild tropical red fruit right there in the middle, but is like bitter and sweet, if that makes sense. And I should say, as a caveat, personally, I don't like fruity oils. And that's why even in the past, most oils from Vietnam that I tried, I just didn't really like, because they were too fruity. Same thing with Cambodian or Thai oils. And in general, most oils that are from Krasna, or Krasna, however you pronounce it, that to me is just not really what I go to, and just doesn't really tend to work very well for my skin. And again, that's one of those things to where I said, if you're totally new to this and I start talking about Krasna versus Sinensis versus all the other subspecies and whatever, all these different regions and variations, subregions and subvariations, it can get all very convoluted and complicated. But typically Vietnamese would have this DNA of like tropical fruits. But for some reason, when I smell this, it reminds me almost of like root beer. Now, it doesn't smell like root beer. It doesn't have the same aromatics as root beer, but it has kind of a similar quality where there's like bittersweet, spicy, medicinal profile. That's the core of it, with these mentholated, vanillic, cooling tones on top, but also in this way that's just very layered and complicated, and something that you taste it and it's just layers. But whereas with this, the experience you get from the beginning, from the opening, carries through to the middle and carries through to the dry down. And why that's important is because usually, in my experience with a lot of the Taiwanese kind of oils that I tried, they felt very disjointed, they felt very jagged, they felt very almost contrived, in the sense that on one hand there was the profile of the region of the wood, whether it's Sri Lanka or Vietnam or Brunei or whatever other region, Laos. And then on top of it, there's like this aggressive gasoline kind of like vapor sort of quality that's just felt like it was just put on top. So it's like you have these two disjointed things. It's like, oh yeah, gasoline vapor. And then if I, sort through it with my my OCD olfactory attention, oh, there's the profile of the wood. And then even some of these oils that I tried from Taiwan that were from the style, even when you arrive at the wood, it's like you can't really tell where it's from or what it is or what the region is. And you're kind of just like, okay, I guess it's this region, even though it just smells like kind of agarwood-ish. Whereas this oil in particular, the Kinamic sort of numbing vaporous qualities are holistically and fully integrated into the oil and carry through to the dry down, where it's not just this like artificial thing on top that you're like, oh, this must be a good oil. And then you get to it and you're like, yeah, what is this again? Like from the very beginning, it's crystal clear and obvious what this oil is, what the style is, what the profile is, and what they're going for. And to me, that's what I really like, and that's what I really tend to enjoy. And it's a very similar qualitative experience to putting my nose in a jar of actual Kinam or Kiara wood. Has a similar bittersweet, numbing, medicinal, antiseptic profile with sort of multiple levels of aroma and flavor built in. We're talking about the top end of agarwood oud oils that are available, that are extremely rare and basically extinct at this point, meaning, from what I understand, from what I've been told, and from everything that I've seen, oils of this caliber just honestly could not be reproduced today because, the distillers that made them are retired or not in the business anymore or moved on to something else. The caliber of wood that they were made from is not available anymore, or if it is, the price is exponentially higher than what it was, in 2010 or 10, 15 years ago when these type of oils were usually distilled. So you start taking all these things into account, and it's really important to accurately frame and understand what we're talking about. We're not talking about, your average consumable good of like, oh, I can go to the health food store and get essential oils for $8. This is not that at all. This is something completely different, a whole other echelon of luxury item that usually moves in secret, usually moves outside of the public eye. So the fact to be able to even access it is great. It's a blessing. It's something, I'm personally grateful for, and I would hope everyone that's into this as a hobby would be as well. And I just wish I would have known about this website sooner, a few years ago, when I was really spending a lot of money on these kinds of oils, because the website's offering the top quality of oils for a fraction of the price of other vendors. And like I said earlier, it's a distillation style and a quality of oil that personally I think is a much higher quality, much more well-rounded, full experience type of oil, Whereas a lot of the other Taiwanese oils that I tried just felt contrived and forced and like very disjointed and just really was not as enjoyable of an experience. And if you have any questions or you want to learn more about incense, agarwood, oud oils, anything of that nature, you can put them in the comments below and I'll be happy to share my thoughts. Or if you want me to review anything in particular, feel free to drop that in. I'll take a look and I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. I don't claim to be an expert or anything on this particular subject. I'm still just a passionate enthusiast, learning and just trying to work my way up, because my mindset is always I want to find the best, I want to get the best, I want to improve my skill, I want to improve my experience and just keep moving forward. So this is one way in which I do that in a way that's kind of fun and enjoyable. And yeah, that one I definitely feel it. Just goes, feel it in my head and all the way through my chest. So that one is definitely a bit relaxing, a bit sedative, and great to do after dinner. This is oftentimes how I use oils the most, is after dinner when I'm unwinding. I don't do screens. I'm not on my phone. I'm not watching TV. I'm not doing anything. I'm not consuming any electrical stimulation. So it's a great time to just sit, either burn some incense or put on an oil and just kind of unwind and relax and enjoy, and also be able to give my full attention to the thing, not just like, oh, it's on, I'm working, I'm doing something else, I'm going about my day, whatever. Which, that has its time and its place, but if you're spending this kind of money and this caliber of oil with this caliber of wood made by, a master of their craft, you kind of want to give the respect to give your full time and energy and attention, and also try to level up your skill and your understanding. So anyways, hopefully that makes sense. Again, drop all the stuff in the comments below and I will talk to you soon.